Carl Hiebert has flown 5,000 miles from Halifax to Vancouver twice in the past few years, taking pictures from the air. Nothing very special about that, I guess, until you learn that the plane he flew weighed only 500 pounds and was propelled by a 50-horsepower motor. He's put the experience between the covers of a new book called Gift of Wings. Carl Hiebert is a paraplegic. Nothing special about that, he'd say. But trust me, he's different. Different in the way he looks at our country. Different in the way he looks at life. Carl Hiebert was born into a Mennonite family in Waterloo, Ontario, the second youngest of 8 children. In 1981, a fall of only 15 feet from a hang glider severed his spinal cord and left him paralyzed from the waist down. And here you are, flying into English Bay, Vancouver, with 5,000 miles of experience behind you. What were you thinking of then?
Well, there's a memory relived. Interesting, Mike. It was anticlimactical. I wanted to turn around and head back to the Rockies.
You weren't tired of it?
No, not at all. Couldn't get enough of it.
Did you feel you had accomplished something, though?
Well, it was that. It was in total probably a 5-year dream, and when those floats touched down, I realized that the simple dream had become reality.
And all your goals then had been reached?
That particular one, of course, one goal leads to another. They just become bigger challenges.
And this flight of 5,000 miles was 2 years in the preparation. Tell us a little about the preparation.
Well, it's interesting. I wrote in my journal notes the night before we left Halifax on this 5,000-mile journey. I wrote something effective. The Gift of Wings challenge is virtually over. There's an incidental part of having to fly 5,000 miles, but the challenge has been met.
It was the big one.
I pounded on doors for 2 years trying to get corporate funding and support for this thing. That was the real challenge.
And what about the organization, though, of where you'd land and
well, that was my challenge. I enjoy organizational challenges, and so that was quite a reasonable thing to do.
And you had a lot of volunteers?
Had 18 people who gave up their summer holidays, either flew the second ultralight or drove the motorhome, the ground crew vehicles. Big team effort, and very grateful. So
they went right across Canada with
Absolutely.
you.
We changed it into 5 sections, so different people took turns for different parts of the trip.
The ultralight plane, could you describe it for us?
Probably the most fun you can have on this planet and still keep your clothes on, so it's been said. I flew a 2-place machine with an extra gas tank in the back, weighed in about 500 pounds, 47 horsepower engine, and it's unencumbered flight in terms of no doors or no windshields around you, so you've got perfect visibility on either side and straight down.
How fast could you fly?
Theoretically, the average speed is about 50. With the headwinds, we averaged 35 miles an hour. And
how many hours a day would you fly?
Typically 4 or 5. In fact, I have a record of flying 3 miles backwards. The winds were stronger than my flying speed. Now, it's a great thing to do if you want to see where you've been, but it's a very slow way to get across Canada.
How high would you fly?
Anywhere from a few feet above the ground in the prairies to my highest was just under 12,000 feet in the Rockies.
Do you need oxygen?
No, you're allowed to fly between 10 and 13,000 feet for half an hour without oxygen. It's cold that gets you, not lack of oxygen.
Now, how and where would you land?
We had airports all along the way. I mean, Canada's really quite prolific with the airports.
Not in the Rockies.
My longest stretch was 2.5 hours going through the Rockies at one point. I still had a half-hour reserve at that point.
And once you landed on a highway?
Didn't plan that one.
No.
Engine out at 200 feet just after takeoff. Stretched the glide over the trees. This is near
Dryden?
Dryden, Ontario, that's right. And, of course, your heart goes into pacemaker's instant overdrive at that point. The engine just died less than 2 seconds, stuffed the nose down to keep the airspeed up, stretched over the glide over top the trees. There was a curve in the road, a highway sign, and a car coming towards me all at the same time. You should have seen the look on the lady's face driving the car. But missed all 3 of those challenges, but caught a wheel in the shoulder and a ground looped in the ditch. And here was sitting at a 45-degree angle, gasoline down my back, thinking, this isn't such a great way to fly across Canada.
Once the plane caught fire.
It did. Just electrical fire right behind the engine. I've forgotten about that.
Yeah.
I've got a good memory. Just outside of Winnipeg. That's right. Electrical wire had, over the course of many miles of flight, rubbed out the insulation, shorted out, and I had electrical fire behind me.
July 1st, 1986. You're leaving Halifax,
right.
58 days ahead of you.
Headwinds 49 days out of 58. They should have moved Expo from Vancouver to Halifax. It would have been a lot easier.
What are you thinking when you're going off there?
Well, it seemed, I mean, it was just
like, how did I get into all this?
This was more exciting than the actual arrival.
Really?
The beginning of the dream, the actual execution, that's right. The hard part was done. This is the bonus, actually getting in the airplane and taking off.
I think you come back here and give the people on the shore a wave.
I have to wave to the crowd, that's right. These are my supporters, my well-wishers. And of course, we had headwinds the first day, good indication of what we're going to be up against during the flight.
But did you ever wonder, how did I get into this?
No, well, I did. Essentially, 3 months before the trip started, somewhere, say, spring of that year, if there would have been a way of bowing out of the project gracefully, I would have done that. I just felt, you know, you're a Mennonite farm boy, what are you doing here? You've taken out something way too big. This is impossible. If I could have snuck out of the project, I would have done that. I just felt overwhelmed by it.
Wow.
But you keep plugging away at it, and
of course, once you take off, you gotta go.
You're underway.